All right. Well, a warm welcome to everyone to this event today. My name is Dennis Garrity, and I'm chair of the board of the Global Evergreening Alliance. This webinar is coming to you as an activity of the Council of Evergreening Fellows, our body of senior professionals from around the world that works to assist and advise the Evergreening Alliance in a whole range of areas with regard to our mission and our agenda. And the council has been engaged in a webinar series, which occurs from time to time. And we are very pleased to have the opportunity to bring this event to you today. The Grupo Ecologio Sierra Gorda is a member of the Global Evergreening Alliance, proud member of the Alliance. And the group has been implementing land and forest conservation and restoration for several decades in Mexico. Along the way, they have worked with the state government of Querétaro to develop and implement a quite unique model of how to finance conservation and restoration activities. And we in the Evergreening Alliance have felt that this model may be of quite some interest to restoration professionals and enthusiasts, not only in Mexico, but throughout the world. And so we have been delighted to have our colleagues from Grupo Ecologio be able to prepare to share with us some key aspects about the work that they are doing and how they have developed and implemented this financing model. So I'd like at this point to turn over the mic to Mr. David Ross, who has been working in land restoration in Mexico for decades and has an enormous experience in the development of the restoration projects and the mechanisms for financing them there. And David will serve as our moderator and introduce his colleagues who will be giving short remarks about different aspects of the Grupo Ecologio agenda. So David, I'd like to ask you if you would take the floor and start our program today with our colleagues from the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody who is participating in this call today. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to share our experiences with you. As Dennis mentioned, I am an advisor of the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda for more than 20 years. And so I will be presenting our speakers today. And the first speaker is our very esteemed the co-founder and general director of the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda, Martha Patti Ruiz Corso. She was one of the founders of the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda in 1987. Which then led the effort to form the Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve in the state of Querétaro in the year 1997, converting a third of the state of Querétaro into a federally protected, natural protected area managed by the local civil society. Patti was named the first director of the Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve by the then president of Mexico, Ernesto Zedillo, and she served in that role until 2009, when she returned to the helm of leadership of the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda. The environmental education and training programs have been a cornerstone of her work, empowering women in the Sierra Gorda through productive projects, watershed restoration, ecosystem product development, public policy guidance, biodiversity protection, and the generation of a culture of respect to assume responsibility for the environment. Today, El Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda has 53 tourism micro enterprises that operate successfully, and Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda, in collaboration with the state of Querétaro, promoted the creation and management of the first state mechanism in favor of carbon capture to reduce carbon footprints, Querétaro model of subnational action in favor of forest owners. And Patti has received many international awards, including the Champions of the Earth Award from the UN Environment, the National Geographic Society Buffett Award, the Wangari Maathai Award of UNDP Equator Prize, and recognition from the Schwab Foundation, Ashoka, and many more. Entonces, Patti, would you welcome to the presentation today? I pass the word to you.
Thank you, David. Morning. I'm here today with great pleasure to be together with the conservation people of the planet. Each one of us are the guards of our territories. We are committed with our land and ready to ground with tools of passion, of work, or versatility to raise a new society, this regenerative society that are just looking how to give a hand to Mother Earth. Today, we want to share with you a key strategy I have been looking for, value for the forest of Sierra Gorda. Since early 90s, I was around selling carbon credits, no? We were chosen by consultants as an ideal project. And then we pursued the gold standard until the year 2012. We got it, and it was such a disappointing process. You know, me as a manager, as an administrator of the territory, of the landscape, wow, so out of place. And we went through that process with David, following those labyrinths that we have been trying to fit in a size 7. We don't fit. The ones who own the forest don't fit in the local protocols. Here in my region, the 97% of the biosphere reserve is private property, with 638 communities living within the reserve. And we want them to make conservation happen. We have to give also the tools and the ways to make it happen. So with all these learnings, I was so frustrated that I approached the government of the state. And since then, more than 9 years ago, we began a process of developing a strategy that could leave behind the markets and go beyond with different rules, with friendly protocols, with social weaving, with technical assistance. Yeah. Then I was very fortunate for years. It began a carbon tax. When you change your fleet, you had to pay a fee. And that's how it began. And it was like that for years until the government of Querétaro today had a financing, I guess, super smart financing solution to give value to carbon certificates for the local corporates of the state, developing a public policy. We register an AMA with all the idea, all our learnings after the frustrating gold standard that we got in the year 2012. Yeah, we began developing a local protocol. Then we register an AMA, and we are in the page of UNFCCC, register as an idea that has gone taken to the ground and put off the solutions back. Yeah, that has gone through that knowledge curve. So we have a NAMA with the idea from where all this began, but I'm not going to talk about the financing mechanism of the Querétaro state, no, because we have our colleague from the state here to do it. Here I am to tell you that this protocol has been designed to be replicated by NGOs. All of us are a charity. We are charities. Then we cannot make money with this protocol because the money goes to the communities. Okay? Just give the technical support, and the rest of the money will go directly to the forest owner. So our protocols are in the context, are so transparent. See, I am surprised when I see what my colleagues has designed to keep it traceable and to give all the transparency we can. So here we are to share with you what our key point is. Go beyond the markets. We were chosen by the United Nations Environment to develop 5 ICAT guides, yeah, that have all these legitimate ownership of a good monitoring system in place with social weaving and resources reaching to the local communities. Now, we expect in a couple of years we will have 15,000 hectares under these payments. And for me, it's a dream to have the resources to give this economic incentive beyond those demanding protocols that commit the local communities to such unenforceable requirements. Yeah, they signed and they are more or less illiterate. Yeah, many of them, it's impossible to understand a paper like that, so technical. No? So in all the ignorance, the locals are committing their land. These carbon credits are not allowed in protected areas in Mexico anymore. Keep them away from us. We will want to deal with the global protocols. No, there is no way Sierra Gorda may fit on it. And if you want to make a trustable protocol, you have to begin because when you have the right size of things, then the context is something that you have to take in count, no? So our protocol has been embroidered for many years. And here we share with you this experience, these tools, this methodology of transparency that we are following and developing a register that could be a guarantee of the things are happening and replicating as we expect to do. It is a subnational action. It is a local action tool. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I think I went over my time.
Thank you very much, Patty.
To share with you, and here I am.
Thank you very much, Patty, for that introduction. And now the next presentation, we will go into more detail about how the biodiversity carbon project works. And the speaker will be Salvador Saravia Rivas, who is a forest restoration engineer, graduated from the University of Chapingo, a prestigious university in Mexico with an excellent forest program. He is originally from the Sierra Gorda of Querétaro and has 7 years of experience in landscape regeneration projects, conservation and protection of forest ecosystems, and monitoring of forest and soil carbon. And so for this biodiversity carbon project, he coordinates the technical team for the identification of areas of high biological value to participate in the project, the integration of the forest landowner files for those who are participating, the monitoring and estimation of carbon sequestration, and a program of activities for surveillance and monitoring and conservation of the eligible properties. He currently serves as the forest director of Bosque Sustentable, a sister organization of the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda, which is part of the Alliance for the Conservation of the Sierra Gorda. Salvador, I pass the word to you.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Salvador. I am the forest director at the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda. As David said, my role in the biodiversity carbon project involves file monitoring to ensure compliance with obligation by forest owners participating in the project and receiving payments. I'm going to share my screen for a brief presentation. My English isn't the best, but I try to do my best. So let me share my screen. Could you see my screen right now?
Yes, now we see it.
Thank you, David. So we call our project Biodiversity Carbon in the Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve, since although we work with carbon valorization, we seek to value all the environmental and biodiversity service that forests provide us. We work with small owners, ejidos, and communities, many of which are in remote and marginalized areas. So comprehensive support throughout the project's phases is essential for its successful operation. Our activities range from integration of owner forest owner or landowners files, which includes socio-environmental analysis to identify areas with potential for regeneration, reconnaissance surveys, polygon developments, cartographic production, among others. We integrate a project and register it with the state of government of Querétaro or another organizations. So that companies, in the case of the Sello Querétaro here in the States, that company requiring to offset their emission can finance the project. Our protocol is flexible in the documentation that must be presented, since we know the territory, but he is strict in full filing obligation. To give an example, many of the project owners do not have a property title or a public deed. Instead, we accept a proof of possession, which is issued by the local authority with knowledge of the territory. This has ensured that many forest owners are not left out due to the requirements of the protocols. The local protocol seeks to regenerate every piece of forest that we can. So, like I say, it's a flexible protocol. So we conduct monitoring of the properties of the owners to ensure compliance with project obligation, which include prohibition of bringing livestock into the forest. We seek to the regeneration, prevention of forest fires. In this season is extremely our priority, the prevention of forest fires, avoidance of logging of live and dead standing timber, prohibition of hunting and extraction of species, and all these activities of the degradation that must be removed from the forest. So all degradation activities must be removed to consider regeneration as additional carbon. We conduct these surveys in the company of the landowners and local park rangers. When any non-compliance is detected, a warning is issued to the landowner to rectify the situation. In case of repeated non-compliance, payment can be suspended and it can be restarted once it is determined that the obligations are being fulfilled. As a part of the project, we carry out the installation of monitoring plots in representative sites to estimate carbon capture in the forest of Sierra Gorda. We establish sample sites for each type of ecosystem present in the region, and with the results, we extrapolate the data to all properties under regeneration. These permanent monitoring plots, along with the file monitoring through surveillance patrols, provide us security and reliability regarding compliance with obligation and the carbon capture that occurs as a result of the project. Finally, we conduct payment events where we take the opportunity to provide training on biodiversity, fire prevention, climate change, and other relevant topics, aiming to build a network of forest protectors, landowners who care for their forests with pride and love, and who now benefit from payments. So these are our partners. These are they are the owners of the land, or better partners to the success of this project. I conclude my presentation by stating that natural regeneration in Sierra Gorda is remarkable, with properties hosting over 15 species of trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants. If we remove degradation activities, nature still has the ability to heal and regenerate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chava. So next on the agenda, I am going to speak very briefly about the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency, whose methods form the basis of the local protocol. So I am also going to share my screen. So we developed this local protocol in conjunction with a nationally appropriate mitigation action of subnational actions for the regeneration of landscapes. This is a NAMA that was registered with the UNFCCC and also registered with the Secretary of Environment here in Mexico. So the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency is an international initiative with the objectives of providing policymakers around the world with tools and support to evaluate the impacts of their climate policies and actions, and to further implement transparent and ambitious climate action. So they have two levels of work. One is a series of guidance documents about how to quantify different types of impacts, and also direct country support to build capacity. So we participate in that first line there of their series of guidance. And in this slide, we show the 5 different guidance documents of ECOT that we piloted. So as Patty mentioned previously, the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda was contracted by ECOT to pilot 5 of their guidance documents. And in fact, after this presentation, I'll put in the chat a link to the ECAT page. And if you go to their page of piloting, you'll see that the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda is the first organization mentioned, and they have links to all the reports that we developed as part of this pilot project, and also a much longer version of this presentation that goes into much more detail about the ECAT methodology for estimating carbon capture and quantifying other impacts of this initiative. And so the 5 guidance documents shown here for the evaluation of greenhouse gas impacts was the guidance document on agriculture, because the NAMA, in addition to forestry registration, also regeneration, also included an element of the implementation of holistic land grazing. So we also estimated the greenhouse gas impacts from that project as well. And then the forestry guidance to estimate the impacts of forest regeneration through the Biodiversity Carbon Project. And then also a guidance document on transformational change involving the different communities of the Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve. And then two supporting guidance documents. One was a non-state and subnational action guidance document, which we use to compare the current and potential impact of the gamma with the NDC goals of Mexico. So that was very useful to show both at a subnational level and a national level that subnational actions in these areas can be a very important contribution to the NDC goals of Mexico. And then we also implemented the guidance for independent technical review. In a minute, I will show the result of that independent technical review was that an independent international organization came to Mexico. They reviewed in detail the reports that we prepared and confirmed that the assessments followed and are consistent with the key recommendations of the ECAT guidance documents, and that the impact estimations are conservative. And they did that through a review of the documents and their calculations. They held interviews at the state level with the Secretary of Environment, and they also went to Mexico City and held meetings with national representatives of the government of Mexico. So that is just very, very briefly how the ECAT methodologies fit in there. And just to give a little quick additional information there is that for forest regeneration, the ECAT methodologies permit the use of default emission factors, or in this case, default removal factors. And so we began with those default removal factors that are in reports that Mexico has presented to the UNFCCC. And then we have been refining those with that work in the field that Salvador was describing, with setting up those monitoring sites and taking actual measurements. So we have been improving upon those default factors with information from the field. Okay, with that, it concludes my part of the presentation. And so next, I'm going to present, the next presentation will be on the biodiverse carbon registry. So we are working with the organization Open Forests to develop a registry for this initiative. And so the next speaker will be Alex Watson, the CEO of Open Forests. He's an environmental entrepreneur, CEO at Open Forests, which was founded in 2011 as a company that operates the map-based Explorer Land platform, which if you haven't seen it, you should definitely take a look, that bridges nature-based projects with funders. Explorer Land offers a unique and dynamic way to present these types of projects, telling their stories with geolocated narratives, photos, and videos on an interactive map. The platform leverages advanced remote sensing applications to offer its users an immersive and data-rich experience. Alexander's mission over the past 12 years has been to promote greater geographic transparency in nature-based projects, helping to build trust, and improve engagement. Alexander, if you please.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you also for the Ever Global Greening Alliance to invite us to this webinar. So you just mentioned that we are in this business now for 12, now almost 13 years. But when the project of Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda started, I basically was in the kindergarten. So it's a big pleasure for me, and I'm very humbled and honored to work with you. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen because there are a few things that are quite visual, and yeah, I want to share them with you. So today I'm going to present, I would say, the technical backbone of this protocol and registry, but I will also give a quick introduction from my point of view why this protocol is so outstanding. So it very much complements existing standards, so which we already mentioned. It's accessible for small to medium-sized landowners. It is local offsetting for local companies, so it's really inclusive. And I think what really stands out that the majority of the payments go to the local community and not to consultants and intermediaries. So usually these equations are reversed. So maybe 20%, 30% go to the local communities and the rest is going to intermediaries. But we need the money on the ground and not in the pockets of intermediaries. So this is a big shout out why I think this is really an important approach. So with local governments, with a local protocol, keeping the money where it's needed. And it also has the possibility not just to design one project, it has the capability to develop entire landscapes. So it's, I put the mouse here because it's for the long scale, for the long tail, for the thousands of little and medium projects which are currently not covered by these major standards. I put this slide here to just show the potential of the impact. So we're not speaking about a tiny grassroots project, we're speaking about a landscape of 380,000 hectares. So it's a huge area. It's a biodiversity hotspot that really deserves to be preserved. And the next slide I want to show you, because I want to show you also the work that has been achieved. So this is just a simple map showing in this purple color tree cover loss over the past years. And I compared this view with a look inside of the conservation area. So where you see with conservation, there's very little deforestation happening. And if you look outside the borders, you see there's a lot of deforestation happening. So this is a clear sign that local management is really working, and it's a way forward. I will quickly explain the mechanisms, so more from an administrative point of view. So in order to calculate the carbon in these locations, there are various land use types with different carbon fixing sequestration factors. Different forest types, different land use types have different fixed rates, but of course these rates are calibrated with local measurements. So it's a quite simple and transparent approach. So per property, depending on the forest type, the carbon storage is calculated. And this makes a carbon inventory per year, so that you know for a certain land use type, for a certain treatment, there will be a certain carbon sequestration factor. This is then confirmed with on the ground monitoring by Salvador, for example. Yeah. And this makes up the carbon inventory, and it's put all into a system. I will not touch it in detail, but each property has a carbon inventory block per year that can be with a unique number, so that it's very clearly where the carbon is coming from. And then there's also the possibility to link these carbon inventories to companies who do offsetting. So which local companies that emit carbon, instead of paying taxes, they can buy carbon offsets from the Grupo. And then the money is going to the local communities to save the forest, and the companies could put that into their balance sheets for their financial statements towards the state. This is just one link, a view on the current registry. Already some transactions have taken place, and this is now developed towards a professional grade database. But it's not just an administration, so we also have the possibilities to add another transparency layer to it, because at the moment, first of all, we spoke about ground truthing through monitoring in the field. We have the administrative transparency, what you can see here. So, and then I will show you in a moment also the remote sensing based and quantified transparency through Earth observation mechanisms. So you see, this is an organization from the state Querétaro, and they have bought carbon credits. In this case, it's an example, 201 tons of carbon equivalent. They have these registration codes of the carbon, and then you can see the property basically where this carbon has been stored. And now I can go here and say, I want to check how is deforestation taking place in this region. So I can activate tree cover loss, and you see where tree cover loss is happening. So I showed you the example outside the reserve. The tree cover loss is really heavy. Inside it's much lower, and there's also tree cover loss from fires or droughts or whatever. And I want to point out one example which I find quite compelling. So you see this line of deforestation that happened here. We have deforestation alerts on a weekly basis for the project, but I switch it off. And then with the help of a satellite timeline, you will be able to see, so this is status of today. So you see the deforestation or the tree cover loss here corresponding with the map, but I can go also back in time, and I can go to a place, to a time where there still was forest. And then just over time, the forest has been removed and destroyed in some places. And yeah, you can see that the deforestation locations very nicely correspond with the tree cover loss from the data. So this way, we have a high integrity of transparency through on-the-ground monitoring. We have an administrative transparency by putting it all onto a standardized database for the administrative transparency. And we have also the capabilities which all the big standards not have as a default, to go there and quantify the impact of a project. And I think that's really innovative. So we have an innovative financing mechanism, but we also have a very innovative way to administrate this local carbon protocol. And with this, I want to end, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for that presentation. Excellent. We're very glad to be collaborating with Open Forest in this. So the next presentation is going to be from the government of the state of Querétaro, who's going to talk in more detail about the Querétaro state stamp for emissions reductions. So the state of Querétaro established a greenhouse gas emission tax that certain businesses in the state are required to pay, and then also developed a compensation system allowing businesses to compensate instead of paying the full amount of the tax. And to provide more detail about this excellent achievement I present Ricardo Torres Hernandez, who is the Deputy Secretary of Environment of the Secretariat for Sustainable Development of the state of Querétaro. Ricardo has pioneered the carbon footprint financing mechanisms of the Secretariat through 2 administrations, making the public policy framework in collaboration with the Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda, and innovating to achieve transparency and nature-based solutions within the local context at a subnational level. Ricardo.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much for everyone to pay attention about the Querétaro Protocol and our alliance with Grupo Ecológico, especially with Patty, who was in touch with the government